I'm an internet stalker. Posted by deleted. Important disclaimer. This story does not encourage the following: stalking someone online or finding out about their personal information. Please be fully aware that this is a story and I do not have the use of encouraging anyone to do this. I followed a person on Instagram for 3 years. This person's name was blank, and I randomly started following her in the summer because of my old Instagram account password unfortunately forgotten. I used an old account I made in 2015. It would be almost 2 years of following her. I realized that I was growing a little bit obsessed with her stories and posts. Once she had an online boyfriend, I was so jealous and wasn't happy at all. As I soon guessed it, I was falling in love. I loved everything about her. Her appearance was unforgettable, yet really cute. The type of girl to use old Snapchat filters to cover up little flaws on her face. There was a couple of selfies, of her natural face without the filters. I fell even more in love with her. She was perfect. She liked anime, photography, pop culture, and nightcore. The perfect girl for me. That time also realized I was bisexual because of the situation. It would be until December 2018 she showed an order. She was ordering online. You should always be careful to cover up your email address and real name on any post or stories so people can't find you. And yet, somehow, after 25 minutes searching on Google Maps, I found where she lived. It was a nice place, a place only 4 hours away from me. This made my heart race. Obviously, I had so many ideas, truth of thoughts, meaning, that I imagined myself doing some type of action, giving her a card or going to knock on her door. I'll admit I was overjoyed at finding out where she lived. My heart couldn't stop racing. I wasn't planning on going to her house and knocking on her door or exposing her personal information at all. I knew the boundaries and crossing lines. I wanted to respect her privacy. Hopefully one day we could meet in a non-creepy way. Maybe. The One Mistake That Followed Me for 7 Years. Posted by Sassy Dreamer 4. Disclaimer. This is a very long post and I'm writing this on my phone, so if there's a lot of mistakes, I'm sorry. It all started in high school. I was naive, shy, and awkward 14-year-old when I asked this one guy to our school's Sadie Hawkins dance. I knew him from a mutual friend of ours, but we really didn't talk. All I knew was that we both liked anime and manga, and that he was kind of quiet most of the time. So I wanted to be nice, and I asked him out to the dance. That was mistake number 1 that started the years of torment. He said yes, and we agreed that we would just meet at the dance with the rest of our friends. A few hours later, I get a message on Facebook from him, and it's a log message telling me that he always had a crush on me, that I was beautiful, and that he couldn't compare my beauty to anything else because he considered that an insult to how beautiful I was. It was pretty cringy, but at the end of it, he asked if I would be his girlfriend. I was uncomfortable after reading the entire message, but again, being the shy and awkward 14-year-old that I was, I told him yes. Mistake number 2. He was ecstatic. He asked to call me that night and asked for my phone number, and I gave it to him. Mistake number 3. He calls me later that night, and I learned a lot of things that I did not want to know. One of his major things was that this guy was a massive crybaby. I'm not trying to say that men that cry are weak, but this guy would cry at everything and would always play the victim. I'm not trying to say that men that cry are weak, but this guy would cry at everything and would always play the victim. Felt like all of his friends didn't like him? Cry. No girl other than me would love him? Cry. Teacher failed all of his assignments even though he openly admitted he didn't want to do any of the work? Cry. The list goes on, but I'll get to more things later. I also learned that night that he had a foot fetish, and now that I was his girlfriend, he was going to do so many things to my feet. Again, not trying to shame anyone, but as a 14-year-old who didn't like showing off any part of my body, I was uncomfortable. And when I went silent for a little bit, guess what he did? Cry! Because I thought he was a freak. His words, not mine. I told him no, I didn't think that he was, though I was starting to. He instantly cheered up. He continued to call me every night, and the conversations usually were the same as the first night he called, until the night of the dance. At the dance, he mentioned he never had his first kiss and how sad it was. I already had my first kiss at this point, and I'm so glad he wasn't it. I kissed him at the dance just to get it over with. However, throughout the night, he would try to kiss me even more, and even trying shoving his tongue in my mouth. It got so bad that a teacher had to pull us apart. Of course, he goes off to sulk and cry. After the dance, I get a text from him saying how magical I made the night for him, that the kiss was delicious, not exaggerating, and how the stupid teacher didn't understand our love, again, not exaggerating. I was feeling pretty sick to my stomach at this point and wanted to break up with this guy, but I stayed a little bit longer. Mistake number 4. 2 days later, he asked me out on a date to the movies. Stupidly, I said yes, and he asked if one of his best friends could come, and if I could bring one of my best friends, since his friend found her attractive and wanted her to be his girlfriend. I told both of them no, because he wasn't her type, and in all honesty, she hated him. They kept pushing me to bring her, but I kept telling them no. Now, his best friend calls me killjoy cunt, and he did his usual thing of crying, because he didn't get what he wanted. We go to the Lorax that night, and his friend sits behind us. The second the lights go out, he turns my head and starts kissing me and pushing his tongue into my mouth. I tried to push him away because I was not going to let him do that with me the entire movie. Again, his friend is right behind us, and he keeps trying to kiss me. The movie ends, and when I get home, he sends me a text saying he was depressed and a picture of my feet would make him feel better. I told him no, and he threatened to kill himself, and it would be all my fault because I didn't send him a photo. Horrified at how fast he snapped, I sent him a photo. Next night, he asked if I had been naughty lately. Knowing where this was leading to, I told him no. He then starts crying about how I was cheating on him and that I had been being naughty with other people, and again he threatened to kill himself. I tried to calm him down by telling him that I was a virgin and not a sexual person at all. He suddenly, as if on a dime, stops his fit and asks me if we could just completely forget about what just happened. I tried telling him that what he did was incredibly inappropriate and was about to tell him to leave me alone, but he pulls the victim card again and starts crying. During the crying, he asked for another picture of my feet to calm him down. Scared he was going to snap again, I sent him another picture. This continued for a few more days until he would try and message me whenever I was busy at school, babysitting, volunteer work, etc., accusing me of cheating, telling him what was going on, him saying sorry and playing the victim card and asking for pictures of my feet to calm down. I eventually had enough, and after 2 weeks of dating him, broke off the relationship. He cried, of course, and begged that we at least stayed friends. School year was ending, and he said he was transferring to a new school, so I figured I would never see him again. Wrong. Beginning of the school year, he would message me, and when I didn't respond, cry and threaten to kill himself. After a while, I just started to ignore the messages and threatened to call the police if he didn't stop messaging me. Thought he would have stopped after that, right? Wrong. Every year, up until I turned 21, he would message me random things at random times. Examples: hey my friend, we're friends, right? Can you send me a pic of your feet? I miss you. I'll leave you alone if you want me to. I'm pathetic, aren't I? And so much more. And each time I ignored him and finally blocked him on every platform he tried to contact me on. Fast forward to 21. I'm in college, ways away from my town and from him, and have a boyfriend. I get a notification from Instagram saying he started following my profile. I quickly block him, and not even 5 minutes later, I get a message from Facebook from a random profile I don't know. The message read, "Why did you block me on Instagram?" I lost it. I sent him a long message telling him if he contacted me in any way, shape, or form, I would get a restraining order, and told him how damaging that would be to his reputation and his future career. Again, he played the victim and told me that he couldn't believe he fell for a liberal bitch like me and to never contact him again. Never heard from him again, and good riddance. A few months later, I get a message from a girl who used to date him as well. She told me he used to threaten to kill himself and cry if she told him she was going to leave him. Again, sorry for the long post. There are more details to the story, but this is already way too long. Who are you really? It makes me shake. Posted by a deleted account. This is a story that's hard to share, but also, it's something I desperately need to get off of my chest. It's a story about learning the true meaning of naivete and deception. A story of destruction and a rebirth. I guess it all started about 3 or 4 years ago, when I had been working at my first job for about 2 years. That was the first year that I would meet the two men that changed my life forever. One for the better, and one for the much worse. The restaurant I worked at had been bought out by a big company, so there was a big overhaul in staff and everything else. A whole new set of managers and some new wait staff as well. One of these men would become my boyfriend 3 years later, and we're still very much in love now. The other, let's just call him POS, because I can't even think of his name without getting upset. POS started as a manager at the time. I never took too much note of him. He was nice enough and seemed funny. I worked there for a while, getting closer as a friend to my current boyfriend. I then left that job for a good 6 months before returning to it. At this point, most of the staff had changed because of a high turnover. I only knew about 3 of the workers, one of which was POS. Flash to about 1 year later, where him and I are okay friends, and I'm well into dating my boyfriend. He starts telling me compliments and love bombing me. He constantly found my weak spots and tried to make them better. He always tried to buy me things and get me to work more hours with him. I learned many things about him during this time. I started to notice how very unstable he was. The dots started to connect, and I remembered how many fights he'd gotten into. In his defense, or for the restaurant, I started thinking about his weapon collection and how off his voice was when he said, "I had you picked out from the moment I met you." In my biggest moment of weakness, when I felt ugly and vulnerable, he made me feel pretty, and I made what I believe is the biggest mistake in my entire life. I listened to him. I sent him pictures that could destroy my relationship. I was naive and believing in all the ways he related to me. He was just a great liar. He even joked to me about his masks and his 9 other personalities. I want to go back and slap myself for not putting it all together faster. The crazed look he got in his eyes sometimes, his breakdowns, so much of it were red flags that I didn't see. He knew how to manipulate me and the people around me. None of it even hit until about a week after I quit the place. Then one night, out of the blue, he starts messaging me. Things start escalating because I had told him there would never be anything between us the last time I'd seen him. He starts ranting about justice and how he could see through me and my lies. He said I needed to tell my boyfriend about us, or he would. I told him there wasn't an us, and that it wasn't his business. He kept insisting that he loved me, and that we needed to be together. He couldn't take no for an answer, even though he kept asking and asking for me to tell him it was over. I told him, and he couldn't take it. He kept calling me a crazy bitch and trying to gaslight me. I'm thankful that I was strong enough to not believe him, and to completely cut him off from my life. Then it got worse. He started talking in third person, calling himself Jack, the Ripper, saying he was going to find me and find my boyfriend. I was panicking in my room, crying and throwing up, all while trying to deal with this. I asked him what he wanted, and all he said was, "You." I've never felt that kind of fear before. I started thinking about how much I love my boyfriend, my amazing, perfect boyfriend, who has been with me through everything, and I calmed down. That's when I marched to my boyfriend's room, sit him down, and tell him everything. And we talked, and he forgave me. And it hurt, and I still haven't completely forgiven myself for hurting him that way. But I'm hoping one day I will. I messaged POS and told him I already told my boyfriend, and that he didn't have any more power over me. He then started grasping at straws, threatening my other job where I work with children, even threatening my PlayStation account. He's a genius. He's insane. I called him by his name while he was talking in other personalities, and he told me to call him Jack, or there would be consequences. I blocked him on everything. I deleted my Facebook. I disconnected myself from everyone who works there, and I spent an entire day speaking to the police and the principal of my work. While talking to the police, they told me that he'll soon find someone new to target, so I could rest easy. But that didn't make me feel better. I still felt sick, because even if he's not fixated on me, that doesn't mean some other poor girl deserves him to do that to her. That experience with the police changed me. What do you do when someone says you have to be with them or he'll kill you and the person you love? I didn't know, and I still don't. I still have nightmares. That Friday, while I was driving home from work, I got pulled over because an anonymous person called in, describing my car and license plate saying I was drunk and on drugs. Wonder who that was. I calmly explained to the officer that I was coming home from work and gave him my case number. I got about 8 calls a day from different random numbers for about 3 days after. Months later, after so much therapy and work, I see him twice in one day. I know his car, so I pretty much get anxious whenever I see the color or make of that car anywhere. One day, my worst fear happened. I was just on my way to a doctor's appointment, and my turn was literally one light up. I pull up to a car that is way too familiar to me, and I notice that there is no way for me to escape. He knows my car, my windows aren't well tinted. I see the shadow of his hair move and know it's him, and my stomach rolls. I pull out my phone and call my mom, shaking so bad I had to redial twice. I ended up making 5 different turns to get to the doctor instead of 1, and I parked very hidden. I was very proud of how calm I was when I walked in for my appointment. It was very hard. After my appointment, I meet with my best friend, and we go to walk her adorable dogs around her house. This guy knew where we were because my car was right there at my friend's house. And I see familiar movement from the corner of my eye. I seriously went cold. I see him walking and start to cross the street to the side where we are at. I didn't even say anything. I just dragged the dogs around the corner and kept turning and going until I felt safe. When I explained to my friend what happened, she helped me calm down, and honestly, I'm just very thankful she was there. I am now writing this 7 months later. I'm still undergoing therapy from this, but I have started to do something very important. I've been reclaiming my space and my mind. I have slowly started to reach out to old coworkers from the restaurant, and I even went outside of the restaurant to say hi to managers and servers I used to know. I found out the next day through my good friend that works there that he said he was uncomfortable with me being there. I laughed. I genuinely laughed really hard. And then I went back for the next 3 days to pick my friend up from there. Just to make a point. I haven't been strong enough to go inside yet though. So many of my nightmares are placed there. I can smell it. I can hear the glasses clinking, and it makes me shake. There's a certain shade of blue he wears, and if I see it, it makes me shake. In every dream I have, that color is always lurking in the background. His presence is always felt. There is a big festival that includes the restaurant every year. It's so much fun, and it would be the first year I could go in 4 years because I always worked it. My friend invites me to go, and I was hesitant at first because this is something I knew he would be at. But I went, and sure enough, When we passed the restaurant, he was wearing the blue shirt. And instead of seeing him from the corner of my eye like I had on my dream, I looked him in the face. I got so angry. I was just insanely pissed off. And honestly, pretty anxious. I just kept walking and forced myself out of the funk. I will be posting updates if anything more happens. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with me. Thank you for reading if you did. In fact, read any of it. This is the deepest story of my heart at this point of my life. So by reading it, you are given a great piece of me.